going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Over and Buried podcast, a wrestling podcast where you go over or you get buried. As always, host here, Brian Nemeth, bringing you another prediction video. This coming weekend, we have Saturday night's main event coming to us live from Atlanta, Georgia, from the State Farm Arena here on Saturday, July 12th. So wanted to get into the match card here and give you my predictions and takes here for what's to follow as well. So let's get right into it. First up on the card, we got Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton. I'm glad to see that Drew McIntyre is finally back on SmackDown. Interrupting during the Cody and Randy segment was great in my opinion. A great way to write him back onto WWE TV. Him coming out, to that bored at work t-shirt is absolutely golden. Uh, I'm sure that's going to be a WWE bestseller. And I'm sure, we all can relate to that as well, for one time or another. But we all love, Drew McIntyre, his, complaining character on Twitter. I think we all kind of miss that. I know I did here personally, but, you can't deny that this man for the last year and a half, 2 years, he has been honest with all of us. He's been really at the root of it, telling us all the truth. And sometimes the truth does hurt. So, um, I feel as though he still is looked at as the bad guy here, regardless of who he's feuding against. Um, he is always looked at as the heel. But at the end of the day, I think Drew McIntyre is just spitting facts here. But when it comes to this match here, Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton, both of these guys truly need a victory here. On one end, you have Randy Orton. He's lost his match against John Cena at Backlash in his hometown of St. Louis to capture his 15th world title win. He also lost his second consecutive King of the Ring finals, first last year to Gunther, and this year in 2025 to Cody Rhodes, his mentee. So Drew, he's lost his all-out war with CM Punk last year. He lost recently that steel cage match between he and Priest, which I believe wrote him off of TV for quite some time. So both of these guys, again, need a W here. Both of them are really, really down bad. They are main event players in WWE, and somebody has to come out as the victor at the end of the day, but it can only be one. So, how does this really shake out? In my opinion, I think the finish is going to look a little bit something like Randy Orton has Drew McIntyre beat. He's down on the mat, he's on all floors, he's, hit an RKO onto Drew McIntyre, and then suddenly Randy backs up into the corner of the turnbuckle, and he sees his opportunity to put Drew McIntyre down for good with a punt kick to the skull. Again, he hesitates in my opinion, just like he did during that King of the Ring finals match during Cody Rhodes. He had Cody beat, and he knows he could have beaten Cody. Cody probably knows that he was beat as well. But again, I think Randy Orton is going to hesitate. He's then going to sprint towards Drew, who, ducks out of the way, and maybe there's an exposed turnbuckle. Maybe there's a chair that is pinned up against, the ropes there in the turnbuckle in the corner. Or maybe even, the ref is pulled in and he takes the blow from Randy. The ref bump that we get, something along those lines. But there's got to be some sort of shenanigans, right? But in the end, I think Drew capitalizes on this, hits the Claymore, he gets the pinfall victory over Randy Orton, and then, maybe he moves on to, maybe a Cody Rhodes. He said during his reintroduction on SmackDown that, Cody, I hope it's you that beats John Cena for that undisputed WWE title, because this is a match, me and you, that's been 20 years in the making. These are two guys who have been a tag team together in the past. So, take my money for that matchup. Drew and Cody, that is a possibility. But at the end of the day, I think Drew is going to capitalize here. You can't just reintroduce him to lose. Um, Randy is going to be down bad here because he's just going to keep losing and losing. But this is going to, make him spiral, I think, into going to that dark place finally. Here's those voices, and eventually we do got to get that legend killer where he's punting people in the skull again, like it was some years ago. But at this point in time, my pick is to have Drew winning here at Saturday night's main event. Next match here, we have Seth Rollins versus LA Knight. Personally, I love what they've been doing with LA Knight, feuding with this faction. He is a fan favorite, and this is the first of many, that could try to step up and stop Seth Rollins' villainous attack on WWE. The first hero, if you will, to try to step up and thwart, Seth's mission here. Um, so I think it's a good pick on WWE to have LA Knight in this position here. As we stated in a previous video, that I wasn't sure what they were going to do with LA Knight once he lost the US title, once he lost, all of these main event type opportunities that he was getting, with Money in the Bank, with King of the Ring. But as we said, this thrusted him back into the main event scene. So again, I really like what they've been doing with LA Knight. But my pick here for Saturday night's main event, the finish, I think there's got to be, some shenanigans, some interference from a Braun Breaker, from a Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed, I think maybe, he's taken out after an attempt of tsunami onto Knight as Knight rolls out of the way. Braun Breaker, then starts to attempt a spear onto LA Knight to help out his faction mate in Seth Rollins. I think Knight moves out of the way, and I think we get Braun Breaker unintentionally spearing Seth Rollins. And I think this is the way that we book this to have LA Knight win this match. And then come Monday Night Raw, Seth is, going to be out there scolding Braun Breaker as if he couldn't get the job done. And this, I think, plants the seed here, or waters the seed even, for Braun Breaker to be left questioning, like, hey, did I make the right decision to join Seth in his quest, in this faction? What is the mission here, or what am I doing long term? I know we made a video discussing the possibility of one superstar taking the briefcase off of Seth Rollins, which would, I believe, in the third time in WWE history, be a fact that a original Money in the Bank winner actually did not cash in and their briefcase was taken from them. So, maybe this is a way that we lead into the next phase of this feud with Seth Rollins and LA Knight. But I don't think this feud stops here. There's too much momentum here. The snowball's rolling. So there's another chapter to be told here. So my official pick for Saturday night's main event is LA Knight over Seth Rollins. And finally, then we have the World Heavyweight Championship match between the Ring General Gunther and the Icon Goldberg. I feel as though we are all 99.9% certain that Gunther is retaining here, right? So, but there is that little sliver of hope that really kind of amplified this feud a little bit, in my opinion. That kind of leaves us still with a question of, well, could he actually come out Saturday night's main event as the victor? And I think that's what we need in WWE. We need those matchups that tell us, I don't know which way they're going. Because then we're going to overlook those PLEs, those weekly TV shows, where if we know the outcome of what's going to happen, then we're not likely going to be tuning into that. So I think that little sliver of a hope for some is getting a lot of people talking like, what if Goldberg actually won this match and Monday Night Raw rolls around and we have in 2025 Goldberg of all people being the World Heavyweight Championship, like it's, the 90s during Monday Night Wars, WCW days where Goldberg was that powerhouse, that undefeated streak that we had. I'm a huge fan of Goldberg, from growing up. He, uh, you know, drew eyes to the product for me for WCW, in addition to, guys like Sting, guys like Ric Flair, guys like Booker T, Diamond Dallas Page, NWO with Hogan being the household name that everybody knew, with Hall and Nash. So you can't, you can't not put Goldberg into that category where you can't you can't deny the fact that if you were a 90s kid or, even an 80s kid growing up, you can't deny that Goldberg made you maybe at least once tune into WCW just for the sheer, spectacle that he was, a guy coming from football that, went to professional wrestling. This feud picked up then after, months ago, Goldberg and his family were in the crowd for a show. Gunther ended up calling out Gage, singling him out. He said, "This is Goldberg's son, by the way," Gage, stating, "I hope Goldberg is a better father than he was a wrestler." So that planted the seed for this match. So, we had behind the scenes some kind of build up, if you will, with kind of that online speculation. I think that kind of fueled this feud. But, um, that planted the seed there. But I don't think we need to give Goldberg all of the hatred that he receives. Yes, he's in his 50s. He hasn't wrestled in what, 3 years now. I agree with many of you that he probably should have retired a long, long time ago. We never should have gotten that dream match between he and The Undertaker, where The Undertaker literally almost died in that match, probably, mere inches away from death. Um, but at the end of the day, too, he's got a family to feed. You're not gonna pass that up on opportunities when the phone rings. He's got to pass go. He's got to collect his payday as well, right? So it makes sense for him from a personal perspective, but you can't blame Goldberg for coming back to WWE. You got to blame it on the booking decisions, the creative decisions within WWE. That's lacking with those comebacks that the legends come back and immediately are thrusted into that main event scene to challenge for a world title. So again, you cannot blame Goldberg for this, but this feud with Gunther, Goldberg came out to the ring in Green Bay and confronted Gunther finally after months of that buildup. The next thing you know, they're throwing up a graphic that this is for the World Heavyweight Championship. Um, why not build this up a little bit, WWE? Why not, spend a few weeks? Gunther comes out to the ring by himself, continues to bully Goldberg, put him down, and continuously say, Bill, you're an old man. You don't have it anymore, nor did you ever have it. You should, he should have been laughing at the fact that Goldberg even wants to challenge Gunther and step into the ring with him at this point in Goldberg's career, when Gunther is really just entering his prime here as a wrestler and within WWE. I think Gunther should have joked and said, "Hey, Bill, you know what? I'll face you at Saturday night's main event, but guess what? I'll even put up my title on the line because I'm not worried in the slightest that a 50-something-year-old man is going to beat me for this World Heavyweight Championship, this prestigious title." Could you imagine, though, a 58-year-old Goldberg dethroning the ring general, Gunther, who has held gold in WWE for nearly, 80% of his time in the company alone? That's unprecedented this day and age. And if that's the case, if we have a universe where Goldberg wins, probably Seth Rollins, no doubt, is cashing in at Saturday night's main event or shortly thereafterward. But at this point in time, I do not seeing that going that way. I don't think this is going to be the case here at Saturday night's main event. This match could go, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. This is longer than the 3-minute matches that Gunther has been mocking Goldberg for his entire career. At the end of the day, I think Goldberg does try to go for a spear against Gunther, who, maybe counters it, puts him in the sleeper hold. Goldberg fades and ends up passing out here. He's, laid to waste in the center of the ring. We don't get a tap out from Goldberg. We don't get a pinfall. So it doesn't hurt his legacy, in my opinion, if he just fades, passes out, bell rings, match over. Gunther, his hand is raised. But um, Atlanta is the perfect place for Goldberg to go out here for his last match, for his retirement match. At the end of the night, I think Goldberg is going to be, coming up from that, pass out for Gunther to retain. And he's going to get up one final time, and we're going to get that standing ovation for Goldberg in the center of the ring. I think, then he's going to take his boots off, leave them in the center of the ring, signifying that his career has come to a conclusion. Um, and I don't think there's a way that a better way that WWE could write it at this point in time. I know Goldberg has been wanting to have his retirement match, I believe in Israel. I think that was very important to him, but the reality of that happening at this point in time, I don't see that happening. So no other way than to choose Atlanta. Um, a guy who went to Georgia, who played, for the Falcons, who then went to wrestling, carved his own path, and made a name for himself in the business. Um, despite all of the flack that he gets throughout his career. No other way to send Goldberg out than here in Atlanta. But I do think that we do get Gunther retaining here to conclude Saturday night's main event here at Safe Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia on July 12th. So those are my predictions for Saturday night's main event. Feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what your predictions are here personally. Let me know where I went wrong. Let's have a healthy debate here. But if you like what you see, please give me a follow. Send me a like. Subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you for the house. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, y'all.